Elevate yourself. Empower others. Welcome to Coach Approach Podcast. Everyone watches training videos. Everyone sits in workshops. But when the real conversation happens, a tough customer, a performance review, a de-escalation moment, most people freeze. Today, we'll break down why knowing isn't doing and how AI roleplay is about to change leadership and sales training forever. Today, I'm joined by John Muldoon, CEO and co-founder of Interflexion, an AI-powered role-play coaching platform for sales and leadership skills. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Marco, for having me.
Your angle isn't AI replacing work, it's AI building human skills. In 1 minute, what is interflexion and what problem are you obsessed with solving?
Sure. I'll start with the second part first. The communication is broken down in the corporate workplace space. So that's an area that we came at and looked at carefully, and we specifically looked at interpersonal and conversational skills, where people need to communicate better, whether it's on a project, whether it's a sales presentation. There's significant room for improvement. And that's where the AI comes in, because of how, the way we've customized it to give you personalized feedback and guide you into improved response to be able to do this at scale are now the options that are available to companies out there.
I mean, people are going to do courses, people finish courses, but behavior doesn't change. Why does traditional training fail to change behavior even when the content is good?
Well, that's a great question. It's really a common problem. You don't have the knowledge transfer, and you get the knowledge transfer by utilizing it in conversation. We provide a safe platform to let learners practice these conversations and assist and aid and enhance knowledge transfer. So what do you have? You have a improved employee now that not only has a knowledge base, but can communicate it very effectively.
Besides that, what's the knowing versus doing gap you see most often in leadership and sales?
Yes. Yeah, it's a wide gap. Uh, if you ask anyone about their training, they typically roll their eyes because they've been inundated with a lot of knowledge-based stuff, and some of it is good. I'm not saying, but if you don't apply it, then you don't retain it, and that's the gap that we identified, and this is what we look to fill. And it's important when you do that to be able to measure the progress and the skills that you're attaining. So that's another area that we addressed. It's not only filling that gap, but it's measuring your performance as well. We're in a performance society now, as you see this shift with AI and so forth, and human employees now need to really step up their game, and there's tools like ours that help them do that.
I see you said something powerful. We transfer knowledge into actions by building muscle memory through practice. Why is scenario practice and role play the fastest path to real behavior change?
There's nothing like being put into an environment that simulates what you may face in the real world. When you can practice that and learn to recognize the situation, not respond as you would normally with your first impulse. Think about the conversation that you want to have, what the perspective is you want to take on it, and so forth. We enable that. We enable that process. So and with practice, that becomes seamless. You get better with practice, like anything in dance, learning a musical instrument, a language. It takes practice to improve. Deliberate practice alone won't do it. You need the coaching. You need the guided learning, It gives you the stepping stones to improving that conversational dialogue. And that's what we do in our platform. We help the individuals. Uh, it's pretty easy to do, and it's quick. These are they're scenario based micro lessons. People retain more when you give them in small chunks. So a lot of times these corporate training, professional development days, you're spending a whole day, you're getting a lot of stuff dumped on you. And unfortunately, the statistics show that people don't retain, 85 to 90% of that. And then how
Mm.
do you apply it? And how can you use it in the workspace? And how can you, if you're interacting with a customer, how can you make that better, right? And you do that by, one of the things that we do on our platform.
Your platform, Interflexion, lets teams craft difficult scenarios, practice them, get immediate personalized AI feedback, and track skill gaps. Can you walk us through a real example? For example, if I'm a manager preparing a tough performance review, what would Interflexion have me do step by step?
That's great, and that's something that we encounter, regularly. First-time managers usually they get promoted because they're good at what their role that they previously filled. They're not necessarily trained to be a manager. Managing people is different, and you might have personal relationships. You're gonna face difficult conversations because now you're in charge of people. And so those skills have to be good. And when you're facing difficult conversations, given a performance review, maybe putting someone on probation, that's difficult. And many people are uncomfortable with that, and especially if that person's been your work colleague. You got the promotion, they didn't. There might be some underlying resentment, and you can sense it. So those things are really tricky, and you're not going to handle them well unless you practice them in the right way, in a structured approach, but in a way that you could practice safely, right? You might make some mistakes, and then you get comfortable. After a few deliberate practice reps, you're going to be comfortable, and you'll know when you face that situation, you're just gonna be better at it. Okay. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of legal repercussions if you don't. You address people wrongly in the workplace as a manager. You come under scrutiny, and then the other side is, if you're a good manager, you're going to retain the people that work for you. I think this, right? The number one reason most people report leaving a job because they had a bad manager. And bad
Mm.
managers are typically managers that don't communicate well with their colleagues, with their work colleagues.
And what skill gaps show up most often when managers think they are good communicators? I mean, you know,
If you ask the people that they communicate with, they'll tell you lots of different stories. Um, there's a balance in how you do this, and you have to practice to get that balance and that understanding, and to commit that to muscle memory. So it becomes part of your management style, not a one-off. You might practice for a certain situation of performance reviews, right? But there's other things that you're going to face. If you're leading a project team, how, and the team is not working well together, and you've got to have difficult conversations with several of them, perhaps, right? Um,
mm,
but as a leader, as you exemplify that you have the ability to communicate more effectively, I believe most workers absorb that, and they too will learn how to communicate more effectively. But and that's about leadership, leading by example, right? Leading by doing, and we help you do the doing, right? This is where you can read about it. You can watch a video on YouTube or so forth, how to give a performance review. Um, every situation is different. When you walk into it, you might get a little tongue tied. You might say the wrong thing. Um, so you have to prepare for that, and like anything else, and we're excited that we think helping managers helps companies in a big way.
This matter to buyers. What changes fastest after they adopt it? And can you tell me what skills improve the fastest with interflexion and why those skills?
But one of the areas we see is on the sales coaching side, right? And the reason is they're already used to role play, and the companies have scripts around their role play, so this is nothing new to them. Sometimes in the managerial world, they're not used to doing role play, and it feels uncomfortable. And what we are able to do for maybe newer salespeople that could come in, they can practice safely there, and before their manager and do their role play. We've seen a lot of examples where people tell us anecdotes, and they walked in, they're starting a sales job, and they're at their sales meeting, and they're put right on the spot immediately to do a role play presentation. And the type A's typically take over those situations, the type A personalities. The ones that might be equally as good, maybe a little shy, or maybe a little more reserved, don't have that ability, right? So when they can
Mhm.
practice safely in the comfort of their own home, speaking naturally in their own voice, this is what builds confidence. And salespeople need confidence, right? So now when they do face their manager or the group they're in front of, they could come into it with feeling stronger and more confident about themselves. They still may need some additional coaching, but it gets you over a big hurdle. And that's an area that we just see is a kind of a no-brainer, for salespeople.
Mhm. I'm just curious, what's the most common, like de-escalation, objection handling, coaching conversations, executive presence?
You've touched on a whole bunch of them, and those they're all very prominent. We've been able to work, and they all present different problems for companies. De-escalation conversations are critical, particularly in public-facing roles. We've had the opportunity to work with, one of our public rail companies, and the conductors needed help in practicing their conversations, and because right now a lot of passengers and customers are more unruly, and
Mm.
you have to be better skilled now to handle a lot of what you see. Everyone sees these examples. If you ride public transportation, I don't think a day goes by that you don't see someone that kind of really is out of line. And the conductors and people that drive the buses and so forth, they're human too, and they're going to want to respond a certain way. Helping them build that muscle memory and box in what they want to say and how they say it is important. So de-escalations, just one of the examples there.
Uh, Can you share some fastest before after you've seen in a user, for example?
Well, I think sales is the easiest to because what we try and focus on, and we built this on the premise of focusing on outcomes. And
Hmm.
if people can communicate better, you're going to have better outcomes. There's no arguing that. And the better you get at it, the more frequent better outcomes you're going to have. So that is where salespeople come into mind again, because in their jobs they have to be focused on outcomes. If they don't generate sales over a period of time, they probably don't have a job. If the company doesn't generate sales at the level that they need to support their operations at the very least, then they're not going to be in business very long. So that's a critical function, and it's an area that we like to work within because this the salespeople are not uncomfortable with role play, but they need the batting cage, right? We provide that batting cage. You can go in, you can take your practice swings. It's going to coach you, on your grip, your stance, your swing, your the follow through. Those are the kind of things, and you just apply that metaphor to your coaching conversation, and that's how you get better. And the good salespeople recognize that.
Managers can see how people are doing, where gaps are, and what training to add. That's outcomes, not checkbox learning. Uh, can you tell me what do the analytics reveal that organizations usually don't want to admit about their team communication?
Well, the analytics are important, right? And that's one of the things that we focused on, identifying the skill gaps, and if there's a concept that's not resonating, or part of the practice conversation that someone can't get, we're going to be able to provide that information back to the administrator or the manager, so they can see. Now you could target, some of your knowledge-based stuff if it's a knowledge-based issue, but it gives you the ability to focus on where the gap is and then how to address it. And you can look at it too. We provide the ability to look at the group as a whole. So you may have one person that's a little light on one area, another one on another. But as a whole, how do they look and how do they perform as a unit? And do what's the skill gap measurement of the group as well as the individual?
Uh, can you tell me how should a sales leader or L&D leader use this data without making people feel policed?
You have to, if you're in the sales, you're getting compensated on it, and if you police is a little bit strong, but I get it. No one
Yeah.
always wants to but you're being reviewed. You're being policed when you're thrown in front of a group of 20 other sales reps or 100 sales rep and asked to perform in front of them. Uh,
Mhm.
that's that's far more
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
strenuous than a report that's going to say, you know what, this person looks like it needs help overcoming objections, or how to handle the discovery calls in a more productive way, right? And you can measure them, and then companies can look. How did we do on the we our sales team went out and did 100 discovery calls. How did we do to get to the next step? Right in
Mhm.
that sales process, but those are things you can measure, and they're
Yeah.
not hard, and you could see them. So that can demonstrate how the batting cage and the practice can really, and the guided learning can help you in your situation, and you can measure it. That's what we love about this now. We're really in an environment where you can measure soft skills, interpersonal skills, and conversation skills.
Your new product, Scarlet. Scarlet is the big shift. Not scripted practice only, but 24/7 conversational coach in the flow of work. So, what is Scarlet and why is it a different category than ChatGPT with a raper?
It's a good question. We've been in the application AI market for approximately 6 years. We start with our first product, that Interflexion, our classic product, which is scripted, and it's like a boot camp. You're gonna go through drills to get better, right? Like any kind of boot camp, when you're being coached in that process. We wanted a complimentary service that now that you're out in the field now, and now you need your situational expert that'll be with you, uh, whether you're going into a performance review or meeting with your boss on some other high level issue, or in sales, particularly in a sales call. What Scarlet allows you to do is interact with her, Tell her your situation that you're coming into. I'm going to present to Marco. He's head of IT at this large company. Their problem they're trying to solve is X. We're up against two final competitors. Scarlet, can you help me, prepare for this meeting? And Scarlet will take over and start asking you questions about, the event you're going to have, and get more details on the situation, as well as the person you're presenting to, and it's going to coach you in real time, full conversational AI on how to approach that situation. And as it unpacks the situation with you, it'll also prompt you, would you like to do some practice conversation before you go in? So this is, again, once again, this is in the flow of work now, right? This is almost real time. And we're really excited about this because this is really a step up on where, smart AI, safe AI, ethical AI comes into play. And that's something that we've always been about from the day we started this. And, we're partnering with a prominent leadership development firm that's building out the sales and leadership development methodologies within this platform. And it's going to keep you on the guardrails. You can't start talking about the meeting you're going to have and then say, Scarlett, can you look up where I should go on vacation later on this month? She's going to bring you right back to the situation, tell you that we need more details on this. And once she has it, she could set you up for your practice round. It's comforting. It's non-threatening. And once you start using it, it's kind of addictive, just because many people that use ChatGPT and so forth, they're great for, it's great for lots of things, but ideation and so forth.
Mhm.
The Scarlets, for in the moment, for the situation that you are addressing specifically, and that requires, a different technological approach than a pure generative AI use case.
Can you share what learning methodology did you build up into Scarlet so it stays on track and drives improvement?
Well, that's kind of the secret sauce.
Okay.
I'm very fortunate that we have, my partner and co-founder John Hack is truly one of the longtime AI experts. He's been working with large language models very early in his career, as early back as Wang Laboratories in the R&D department. He has a deep and rich understanding on how large language models work, and as a result, how we craft the code around that to provide the application that we're providing with Scarlet that makes her think a certain way, keeps you on the tracks and the rails of where you're going with this situation, and truly, truly helpful. I've been fortunate enough. We're about to go into beta in 2 weeks, but we had a few potential customers alpha tested out just on the front end, and they were surprised that they walked away with and three of these people were 30-year plus super salespeople in different industries, that Scarlett gave them something that they hadn't considered on a real situation that they discussed in the dialogue with Scarlett. So, if you get one little tip, one little tidbit, one thing special that helped you be better, that's increased the chance of you making that sale. I mean, Scarlett's going to pay for itself. That's what you have. You have a full-time manager, a full-time coach, a full-time business advisor, and a full-time strategist that's working with you on a on your specific situation.
When we talk about the future, you were very direct. AI will displace some coaching, cheaper, scalable, consistent, but Interflexion is human-centric AI because it builds human skills. So How do you uh, uh, how do you reconcile those two realities? Like AI
Well,
displacing roles while also becoming the greatest skills accelerator we've ever had.
this is, this is now we're getting into the heart of the matter, right? Unfortunately, AI it has the ability to eliminate a lot of task-oriented jobs, right? And it does a lot of other things, and helping in research and many things that it can do well. So I think there's new jobs that'll be created. They'll be different. They might not be at the same scale. Unfortunately, I think many content focused jobs and task oriented jobs, a lot AI can do a lot of that with less people. It still needs people to run it. Someone and humans still need to problem solve. Once again, this comes back to the communication problem. So for us, we wanted to, we're proud that we're using AI to build human skills, human communication skills. And as everyone that may watch this, and I bet just pretty much all of them use some form of generative AI, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or so forth. For us, we're really happy to be working on a platform that helps communication skills in the workplace. We are using AI to build human skills, which are still needed and are very important because the humans are going to want that do the problem solving. They have to, generative AI it doesn't have a model. It's just looking at stuff, and it doesn't understand contextual stuff like humans can. So, um, you know, building those human skills are really important. So, that's an area that we focus in. Two, the second thing on this is that this is the way I look at it. For everyone that uses ChatGPT and the other generative AI, they're already getting machine level communication. This is how machines think and operate now, and they're being programmed that way, right? By using solutions like Scarlet and our Interflexion, it's training you in ways that you're going to be able to better communicate in machine and artificial intelligence language. It's very structured, it's organized, it's prioritized, and not everyone thinks and speaks like that, right? We tend to be more random. So that structure, and the better you get at that particular skill, you're going to be better skilled on dealing with AI and machine learning solutions that are out there.
And what happens to human coaches? Do they become higher level or they get replaced?
Human coaches, it's going to be both, in my opinion. Unfortunately, technology is disruptive, and AI certainly is very disruptive. The coaches that know how to use these solutions and use them as important and sophisticated tools to allow them to help the people and the organizations they coach are going to be the winners. The ones that aren't using this, that are stuck in, it's my way or the highway, and I'm not using AI. The human value is important, and I agree with that part. But when it comes to scale, you can't touch AI. When you touch on quality, it's hard to beat what you're going to get on a properly structured AI solution. We think we have one of them. So,
Mhm.
um, a superior coach is going to use these tools to help their audiences, and they can focus on some of the more nuanced stuff, though, right? Because this is still about this stuff around body language, and there's stuff around pacing. your conversations. And there's many other fine things that the AI may not be good at, but it's getting better in some ways. We've always been a leader in ours has been able to recognize sentiment in conversations. So that's an important thing typically a coach could bring out. But there's still many things that an in-person coach can do. But tools like ours, uh, are meant to be used by those types of coaches, and I think that some of the coaching market will be under pressure for these types of solutions. It's just it's a fact of life, and it's happened in other technological revolutions that we've experienced or in the past generations.
I'm interested, what does human-centric AI means as a principle, like deeper, not just as a marketing phrase. What are the
Yeah,
principles behind that?
yeah, I think it's important because everyone's caught up in the AI, right? But it's still about humans processing situations and finding solutions for them. So the ability to strengthen that proposition is more important than ever now. And like I said, a lot of jobs are at risk. So human-centric AI is there to help. Use it, guide yourself, be a self-starter, be a lifetime learner. Try some of this stuff. You'd be surprised what you find out with some of the interactions. Sometimes you find out the stuff isn't good coming out of certain things, and you have to. It's still about the human mind making decisions about things, right? That are important. And you could get caught up on the AI, and some people might just get lazy. It's just easy to I'll just throw this in ChatGPT, and I'll have my solution. My job's easy. I'm done in 5 minutes. Well, make sure you're taking a step back and thinking about, you know, uh, what you're doing there, because the human centric part is about problem solving. It's about understanding contextual situations that AI can't do it. So, you know, that's that's the human centric part.
Mhm.
And that you can get out of that, and that skill you can build with AI. So there's your human centric AI.
From your work, you mentioned training New Jersey Transit conductors on de-escalation. And can you tell me what did you learn from real world de-escalation training that surprised you?
I'm not sure there was too much that surprised me, but the fact that the need has gotten greater, and as I stated earlier, that there's just people behave. There's more people behaving badly on in public transit, whether it's planes, trains, or automobiles.
Mhm.
And people need a way to de-escalate that. This is not just for train conductors. It's for people that for commuters that, you're stressed, your train's late, rethink what you're doing. It's easy to blame someone. It's easy to want to let off steam. The conductor's not necessarily responsible for the train being late, right? It could be power outage, it could be signal problems, it could be weather. Um, so, uh, my takeaway is there's just been greater emphasis on trying to help those public service people uh, address these situations that have become more numerous, in some cases more complex as well.
Mhm. How does practice change emotion under pressure?
Oh, that's an easy one. I think anyone that practice anything to get better knows when you've improved, right? And
Yeah.
improvement brings confidence. Confidence brings the ability to execute better. So that whole that whole train of that whole sequence of outcomes are really key. People roll their eyes, oh, practice and I asked when I talk to some audiences, I ask how many people have kids. The hands go up. How many kids play sports or taking dance lessons or play an instrument? They go yes. And then I ask them, do they must go to practice? They go, yeah. Do they get better with it? For the most part, they either drop out, they don't like it, or they have improved, right? And you can see that. That's with practice and coaching. So I asked them, and because these are usually my target audience, okay, so are you ready to practice now? Because you can get better with practice.
When we talk about adoption barrier, you found a friction point. Getting people to write scripts was hard unless they're in sales. What did they teach you about adoption and why Scarlet solves that friction?
Well, many people in the L&D world, they have a full plate. There's a lot going on. I think, there's the new shiny object with generative AI, and many of them, it's helped many of them in more creative content generation, quicker content, more output, if you will. The and the and what we found is many people, first of all, human nature just wants to do it the old way, right?
Okay, yeah.
They're interested. This looks cool. It's easy to fall back on the old way. It usually takes extra effort. It takes extra time and commitment to take a step forward, right? Or to explore something that could help you and make a leap. So when what we found is many people, when you ask them that they have to do something different and something even as simple as script writing, there and we're talking 30 to 60-second scripts. This isn't, we're not asking to write a book. We found that there is just um, uh, people were not focused on what the outcome they were looking for properly, and how to script the outcome that they want. So we help them with that, and it's not a big hurdle, but it's just every little hurdle makes someone want to go back to the old way they're doing it. And the old way isn't, there's improved ways now to build skills quicker, faster, and better. Like I said, we're one of those platforms, which is a lot of good stuff out there. So, that's always a challenge to get people to adopt. What Scarlet does is it just gets put in your hand. You click mic, and you're talking with Scarlet, and you're talking your specific situation, and Scarlet will take over and converse with you to get the pertinent facts around your situation. So that's a self-starter. That's just easier. It doesn't require anyone's time. It just the end user that uses it gets the benefit right away. Our boot camp product, well, you gotta set up a program for someone, and that takes a little time to make sure it's coordinated with their existing training materials, and there's other things that they have to sync up to. So and I might have oversimplified it earlier, saying that it was just about script writing, but it's the process that they got to embed it in, and then they got to change the way they're thinking, right? And while people will understand this, the science is behind us. Practice makes you better with deliberate practice, coaching, feedback, and practice makes you better. And, eventually many more will get there.
Yeah, it calls purpose-built AI, application AI, right?
Yes.
That's strong positioning. What makes AI purpose-built in a way that actually improves learning outcomes?
Well, I mean, something that we've always taken, we've been a leader in the market in that respect. We were one of the first application AI or purpose-built AI, a term coined by MIT, in this thing. We are, while we are a utility across any industry, we are vertically focused on conversational skills, and that's purpose built. So we put the rails on this. We make it safe to use. Your data is safe. It's secure. The user feels comfortable using it, because there's a certain amount of privacy that you have with it. So, that's how we see that.
And how do you prevent it from becoming generic advice instead of real coaching?
Well, that's built in the methodology. This is not
Okay.
just generative AI. We use one of the large language models, but what we build in it is the methodology, in the sales training methodology, leadership development methodologies. So those are embedded. Those are what guide the generative AI to provide you with the right information when you're interacting with a Scarlet or classic product.
Okay, I have only one, two, three, four quick questions. First, one skill every sales leader should practice weekly.
It's either going to be overcoming objections or closing, right? Because in the
Hmm.
end, it's about, can you close the deal? Right? Once again, they get measured on performance. So you can have all the discovery calls, you can overcome all the objections, but were you able to close the deal? So
Hmm.
being able to practice that area is probably critical for people. But everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. Some are good at the final punch, right? Others aren't.
Yeah.
Um, in the end, you're as good as your whole, right? Being and when you're doing this, and we hope we're building the right skills for people, along their journey.
Can you tell me one skill every manager avoids but must master?
Yeah, I mean that one's really simple. That's, the difficult conversations that they need to have in the workplace. No one likes
Hmm.
to have, I can't tell you the number of times I've seen how many groups and people avoid that. And people don't want conflict, right? But there's a way to handle that, right? And many are not given the approach or the ability to practice that skill, and it's really important because you can't improve an organization or an individual if you can't have difficult conversations, right? This is it, your work's not up to par. Let's talk about where it's breaking down, and there's a way to approach that, and you can do this with empathy and the right way, but it's asking questions in the right way. It's addressing the situation in the right way, and you don't know it until you do it. And we give you the opportunity to at least uh, learn how to approach certain situations. And every situation is different, but you'll be trained to think about it the right way, and then your response will be also there. That is it's not a canned response, but you'll know how to address that situation. So that's, you know to me, that's one of the most important things for a manager.
Can you tell me one myth about coaching that AI will expose?
Is one of the key things that it does for us is, have you taken the right perspective on the dialogue or the situation that you're facing? You could just sit around and watch politicians. They never answer what they're asked, right? Or almost never.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and people do this. Human nature sometimes. You want to answer what's easiest, right? Or you might answer what's easiest first when it really isn't the most important a part of the response. So having the right perspective is key. And, certainly within our AI solution, that's what we focused on. That's the first thing. Have you taken the right perspective on this conversation? You can't answer it properly if you haven't. So that's a key factor.
And tell me one prediction for AI coaching in 2026.
It's not going away. I think these next 2 years, you're going to see the rapid rise of AI coaching. The big players are out there doing their stuff. Um, you know, young companies like ourselves, we've been pioneers in the space, and we have our niche, and we know what we do pretty well. And we're excited about the growth in the market, and and helping people be better, be better at what they do, particularly around their skills to communicate in the workplace.
John, this was incredibly practical. Thank you very much. For leaders listening, if they want to explore Interflexion or follow the Scarlet launch, where should they go?
Yeah, so they could check out our website, www.interflexion.com. They can reach me directly at john.muldoon, Muldoon, at interflexion.com. Those are the best ways to reach us. We'd love to talk to you. Love to hear your ideas.
Elevate yourself. Empower others. Welcome to Coach Approach Podcast.